My neighbor claimed I broke his fence. I offered to help fix it. The next day, I woke up to my porch spray-painted thief and a letter from his lawyer. "I told you to stay in your place," he whispered across the hedge. I didn't respond, just waited until the security footage hit the courtroom. I live in a quiet cul-de-sac in a suburb just outside of Columbus, Ohio. You know the kind. Identical two-story homes, neat lawns, people waving when they back out of their driveways, but never really talking beyond that. I've been here 9 years. It's not exciting, but it's safe. Or at least it was. The problem started with a fence. My neighbor, Greg, lives to the right of me. Retired, probably early 60s, always trimming his hedges like they're going to be judged by a magazine. He's the type who measures grass height and files noise complaints for kids playing basketball too late. We've never had real words, just nods, waves, and that cold kind of politeness people use when they don't like you but can't say why. One morning, I was out back drinking coffee when I heard this loud crack. I turned and saw Greg standing by the side of his wooden fence. One of the panels was leaning, splintered at the bottom. He didn't wave this time. He just stared at me and said, "Your dog pushed through it." I blinked. "What?" "Your dog," he said, slower. "He's been nosing around my side. You need to control him." Now, my dog, Carter, is a 5-year-old lab. He's playful, sure, but he doesn't jump fences. He barely leaves the yard. Still, I didn't want trouble. "Okay," I said. "I'll take a look. I can help fix it." Greg didn't say thanks. He just walked back into his garage and slammed the door. That afternoon, I went over with a power drill, some screws, and a few extra boards I had in the shed. I reinforced the panel and made sure it was secure. It wasn't perfect, but it was stable. I thought that was the end of it. The next morning, I opened my front door and froze. Someone had spray-painted the word thief across my front porch railing. Big, sloppy red letters dripping down onto the wood. On the top step was a thick envelope. Legal letterhead. A cease and desist claiming I'd damaged private property and trespassed, and was being reported for intentional destruction. It even accused me of attempting to access neighbors' property under false pretense. At first, I thought it was a prank, but when I looked up, Greg was standing in his yard. Just standing there, arms crossed, like he'd been waiting for me to come out. "I told you to stay in your place," he said. He didn't even raise his voice. Just said it low, calm. Like it wasn't the first time he'd said it to someone. I didn't answer. I went back inside, locked the door, and just stood in the kitchen with that letter in my hand. I didn't know what the hell I was dealing with. Then I remembered I had a security camera. Small, motion-activated one above my garage. I barely thought about it most days. I pulled up the app on my phone and went back through the footage. What I found made my stomach turn. At 2:13 a.m., 2 nights before the spray paint, Greg came into view. Wearing a dark hoodie, he walked over to his own fence and kicked one of the panels hard. Then he pulled out a crowbar and pried the bottom corner loose. Not fast. Not in anger. Just slowly, deliberately. He looked around once, then walked off camera. It was the same panel he blamed me for. Then, the night before I found my porch tagged, he showed up again. Same hoodie. He came right up to my steps, spray can in hand. Took his time. Painted the word thief, then placed the envelope down like it was a gift. I sat there watching, jaw clenched. I saved the files and copied them to 3 different places, USB, cloud, even emailed them to myself. I wasn't about to let them disappear. I didn't confront him. Didn't talk to him at all after that. I went straight to a lawyer and filed a countersuit. He wanted a courtroom? Fine. I was going to give him one. When we showed up for the hearing, Greg looked smug. He wore this navy blazer, like he was there to lecture me. His lawyer looked confident too. Until the footage played. No sound, just clean black and white video. Greg, clear as day, damaging his own fence. Tagging my house. Placing that envelope. You could feel the shift in the room. His lawyer stopped taking notes. The judge didn't say anything for a long moment, then just said, "This is very troubling." Greg didn't look at me when we left court. Didn't speak. Just walked out fast with his lawyer whispering at him. But the next morning, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just one sentence typed on plain paper. You think this is over. You should have stayed in your place. And that's when I realized this wasn't about a fence. It never was. I brought the letter to the police. Not because I thought they'd do anything. I knew how this kind of thing went. No threat, no crime. But I wanted it on record. I handed it to the officer at the front desk, explained the history, the court case, the footage. He read it twice, then said, "Yeah, we can file a report. Just in case it escalates." That word stuck with me. Escalates. Because it did. 3 nights later, I was coming back from work. Long shift, dead tired, just wanted to eat and go to bed. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something off. The side gate was open. Carter was inside, wagging his tail like nothing was wrong, but the latch had been forced. Not broken, just pried open. I checked the yard, the fence, the back door. Nothing stolen, nothing moved. Just that open gate. I reviewed the footage again. Same figure. Same hoodie. This time, he didn't spray anything or leave a letter. He just opened the gate and walked away. Like he wanted me to know he could. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house made me flinch. I put a chair under the doorknob. Slept with the lights on. It wasn't the act that scared me, it was the silence. The calm way he did it. Like he was playing a long game. I upgraded my cameras the next day. Added 2 more to the sides of the house. Got motion lights installed. Carter wouldn't stop pacing. Every time someone walked by the house, he growled. Then the rumors started. I went to the grocery store and saw Marla from 3 houses down. Usually she's chatty, but this time she just nodded stiffly and turned away. At the hardware store, a guy I'd spoken to once acted like he didn't recognize me. It happened again and again, neighbors looking at me like I was contagious. Eventually, I found out why. Greg had told them I vandalized his property, that I harassed him, that I doctored the footage to make him look bad. I couldn't believe it. He'd taken the loss in court and somehow spun it. I tried talking to one neighbor, Ron, who lives across the street. Said something casual like, "Hey, just so you know, there's more to that fence thing than Greg's saying." He wouldn't even meet my eyes. "Look," he said, "I don't want to be in the middle of it." I stood there holding my groceries, heart pounding. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just said, "Okay," and walked back inside. That's when I realized Greg wasn't just trying to scare me. He was trying to turn the whole neighborhood against me. And he was doing a damn good job of it. It got harder to leave the house. Everywhere I went, I felt eyes on me. I'd pull out of the driveway and see curtains shift across the street. I started getting nasty little messages slipped under my doormat. Anonymous, typed. Always short. Liar. People like you don't belong here. Move. I kept the notes, but I stopped going to the police. What was I supposed to say? That my neighbor was running a psychological campaign against me? That he was poisoning my life drip by drip? They wouldn't do anything. And Greg knew that. The worst part? I couldn't prove it was him. The footage only showed what he did directly. None of these letters had fingerprints. None of the neighbors would talk. He kept himself just clean enough. One afternoon, I caught him trimming his hedges. I stepped outside, pretending to water the flowers. I just watched him. He didn't look up, just kept snipping, slow and steady. But as I turned to go back inside, he said, clear as day, "I warned you." I turned around. "What do you want from me?" He paused, finally looked at me and said, "I want you gone." Just like that. Not shouted. Not emotional. Just flat. Like he was talking about trimming the grass. That night I found Carter pacing again, staring at the back door. When I opened it, he bolted straight to the fence, right where Greg's yard starts, barking nonstop. There was a dead rat sitting right at the base of the panel. No blood. Just placed there. Clean. Like a message. I picked it up with a shovel, hands shaking, and dropped it into a trash bag. I didn't say anything to anyone. What was the point? Every part of me wanted to move. Just pack it all up, sell the house, and go. But I couldn't. I had sunk everything into this place. My savings,
My time.
my trust. And the more he pushed, the more I dug in. Then one morning I opened my front door and saw a for sale sign. Not on my lawn, on his. Greg was moving. No warning.
No will be.
Just a sudden, quiet decision. But I didn't feel relief. I felt unsettled. Because if he was moving, that meant he didn't care anymore. That he'd done what he came to do. That he'd broken whatever he was trying to break. And maybe, just maybe, he'd already won. A week after the for sale sign went up, I got a call from the realtor. Not mine, his. She said there'd been some confusion with the property lines. That during the listing process, something odd came up in the county records. Your name's listed on a shared utility easement.
Did you know that?
I didn't. I had no idea what that even meant. Turns out, years ago, a tiny strip of land between our 2 yards, maybe 4 feet wide, was registered under a shared maintenance agreement from when the homes were first built. Almost no one in the neighborhood knew about it. It was mostly paperwork technicalities. But Greg knew, because attached to that easement clause was a clause about shared liability. If a dispute ever came up over damage or use, both parties had to cooperate on resolution, or neither could make structural changes within that boundary. That included fences. That included selling the house. The realtor said, "We'll need you to sign off on a release, so we can clear title and proceed." I asked if Greg had signed anything yet. There was a pause. Then she said, "No. He said you were the one who refused." I told her I'd need to review everything before signing. I hung up and just sat there at the kitchen table for a long time. He knew I wouldn't sign. He knew I'd find out. And now, somehow, I was the one holding up his sale. And the best part? He could tell everyone that I was doing it out of spite, that I was trying to trap him here. It was brilliant. Everywhere I went, I could feel the tension. People stopped waving entirely. One guy jogged past me without a glance, even though we used to chat once a week. A woman at the local coffee place left her spot in line when she saw me behind her. Greg had flipped the whole block. He even started working on the house again. New paint. Power washing the driveway. Hosting realtors for walkthroughs that never seemed to go anywhere. But he always made sure I saw him watching me through the hedge. And then, about a month later, it stopped. No workers.
No gre.
No cars in the driveway. For 2 days, nothing moved at that house. On the 3rd day, I walked past and noticed the back gate swinging open. I walked up, slowly, and looked through the slats of the fence. The yard was empty. The lights were off. And there was a thick manila envelope duct taped to the back door. No name. Just the word, final. I stood there for a long time, staring at that envelope. Part of me didn't want to touch it. I didn't trust anything coming from that man. But it was taped up so deliberately, like it was meant to be found, not by just anyone, but by me. So I peeled it off, took it home, and opened it on the kitchen counter. Inside were 3 things. First, a copy of the original neighborhood plat map, the one showing the easement. The property lines were highlighted in yellow. There was a sticky note on it. You should have known better. Second, a printed stack of what looked like messages, screenshots of posts, comments, even text logs. All fake.
All about me.
Fake accounts using my name, pictures, even parts of old job listings I'd posted online. They accused me of harassment.
Theft.
One even hinted at something worse, like I'd been investigated before. None of it was true, but it was detailed, targeted, deliberate. And third, a handwritten note, not typed, not cold like before. Just a torn piece of notebook paper with slanted, shaky handwriting. You ruined my life, and you don't even remember. That line hit me in the chest. I read it 5 times. It made no sense. I'd barely spoken to the man before the fence incident. We'd nodded in passing, maybe exchanged 20 words in 9 years. How could I have ruined his life? I flipped through the stack again, looking for something, anything, that would explain it. And then I found it. At the very bottom, stapled to the back of the fake screenshots, was a printout of a news article. It was dated 12 years ago. From a town I'd lived in briefly, during a rough patch. The headline was about a zoning case that had collapsed. A small apartment project halted due to community pressure. I had been one of the petitioners. A group of us had pushed back hard. Not personal, just about traffic, property values, the usual stuff. Greg's name was in the article. He'd been one of the project's investors. It clicked then. The petition. The angry town hall meetings. The money they lost when it fell through. And apparently, in his mind, I was the reason it failed.
Not the city.
Not the dozens of people who signed.
Me.
He must have followed my name. My face. Tracked where I moved. Maybe he saw it in a real estate database. Maybe he just got lucky. Either way, he remembered me. I hadn't remembered him. And for that, he dedicated years to ruining my life, piece by piece, from just one house over. I moved 6 months later. I didn't tell anyone on the street. I didn't leave a forwarding address. Some nights, I still check my porch light 3 times before bed. Not because I'm scared he'll come back, but because I finally understand how easily someone can build their whole life around hating you. And you won't even see it coming.